What's up, guys? I'm EJ, and I'm joined by Kendall. And thank you all for watching this virtual NBA Draft War Room session. We are doing the Charlotte Hornets in this video. Charlotte got very lucky in the NBA draft. They draft lottery rather. They got to move up quite a number of spots all the way up to number 3. Fans now who are maybe looking at certain players before the lottery now have a whole new crop of talent that they'll be keeping an eye on. Some elite level prospects by many accounts. So it should be an interesting video. The Hornets, Kendall, obviously owned by Michael Jordan, Mitch Kupchak, GM. A little bit of a mixed bag, I think, so far in the Kupchak era. Trading out of the spot that ended up being Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I like the draft pick they did last year with Washington, and Bridges seemed to come around, and obviously Graham has been a find. But this is a team that desperately needs a star or needs an infusion of talent. I mean, you're talking about one of the worst offensive teams in the league, and a team that right now seems directionless.
Yeah, this is a weird time for Charlotte basketball. I don't know if anybody look them moving up in the draft was like great. Obviously, like you're not gonna find a star, or it's tougher to find a star at like 9 or 10 or wherever they would have been before. So obviously, you're happy that you move up into the top 3. But even saying that, like I kind of feel like, man, they need the first pick in this draft. Like even at 3, it's like
things are so bad for them.
Yeah,
right?
They
needed
so bad.
number
like,
1.
Anything I project right now, it feels like, well, I mean, it still feels like a road to Kate Cunningham or Jalen Green. You know, like that's how bad the Hornets really seem to project next year. But there are still players that they can pick that I think could be stars. Even if they're not helping them win 40 games next year, there are still players that I think could be star players in this draft. So this should be an interesting exercise.
Should be a fun conversation. Let's get to it. So once again, Charlotte Hornets, they have picks number 3, 32, and 56. They finished this past season with a 23 and 42 record. Team needs backcourt size, to me, very obvious. They're starting 2 guys that are like 6'1" in the backcourt. Wherever they're listed, they look about 6'1", Rozier and Graham. So they have really no 2-man of note that really is a difference maker for them. So they're definitely going to need some help, whether it's a bigger guard, point guard, or a big 2 guard, multiple 2 guards potentially. That's going to be definitely an area of need. I put front court depth as well as a team need, considering Bismack Biyombo, free agent. We'll talk about him in a second, I guess, but he may be out the door. He will likely be out the door. Even the guys they did have, Zeller was fine. I don't know if he's a starter at this point in his career, but I think he's fine. Yeah, you can make that case. But my thing is, he's a good player. He's a good NBA player. I don't know if he's a starter. And then the other guys they had, to me, are barely NBA players that were playing. Biyombo and Willie Hernan-Gomez. So they got really nothing from the front court. So they definitely need to improve that part of their roster. And I added also interior scoring because Zeller averaged about 11, 12 points last year. But those other guys really did not provide any interior scoring for them on a consistent basis. So you were relying a lot on some tough shot making from the likes of Rozier and Graham, and even someone like PJ Washington being someone who's going to be giving you interior buckets. So that's going to be key parts for this team. As I said, Kendall, Mitch Kupchak, GM of the team. What are we looking at here? Number 3 pick. Michael Jordan in his past has been a interesting drafter, I think, to say the least. I think that's the best way to put it. He's not been afraid to take some risk in some instances. He does normally like big names. When you're looking at 3, considering who you see at 1 and 2 with the Timberwolves and the Warriors, where do you think the Hornets should be looking at with that pick?
Oh man, so look, we'll start with the elephant in the room. Again, obviously they kind of got screwed not getting 1 or 2, because I think the best fit is Anthony Edwards. And if there's a way they can get Anthony Edwards, or you hope and pray to the basketball gods that he drops to number 3, because I think he's the guy most built for this mess of a situation. And again, not necessarily doesn't mean you're going to win 30 games, but I think if Anthony Edwards was in Charlotte, like he'd probably win Rookie of the Year, and it's the closest thing you get to like the John Morant thing in Memphis, which it wouldn't be that good, obviously, I wouldn't think, but I feel like that's the guy really you probably need with this roster. which again isn't awful. Like there are pieces that you mentioned, P.J. Washington, Miles Bridges. We'll see what Monk is post suspension. And obviously, like the backcourt, like the guards are what they are, but they're not scrubs. So it's not like they're barren of talent, but they need, like you said, a dynamic talent. And without it, they're probably one of the worst teams in the league next year. The guy I would look at, assuming Edwards is not there, is James Wiseman. I think big ticket out of Memphis is, I don't know, like I feel bad for him having to go to the situation, not because it's Charlotte and Jordan and stuff. Like it's that you're, any place you go to in the top 5 is probably not gonna be like a gold standard organization outside of Golden State. but I feel bad because I think the point guard situation is not ideal for James Wiseman. But I think James Wiseman himself makes everything easier for the other guys on Charlotte. So I think, like, if you draft Wiseman, I think you have Devontae Graham, obviously, and Terry Rozier in the backcourt. Hopefully those guys are a little bit more willing in terms of being willing passers. But in the pick and roll, having a lob threat like Wiseman makes their job so much easier. I mean, at the 5 spot this year, like you mentioned, you're talking about Biyombo and Hernan Gomez and Zeller. Like, that was really something that they were missing, was a legitimate 5-man that really sucked the gravity of the defense. And it's just, I feel like Wiseman is the type of big that would be better playing with an elite playmaking point guard. They don't have that, so that's the problem. But look, that's not going to stop me from drafting who I think would probably be one of, if not the best player available at the time, and probably, and in my opinion, the best player available for them. If they lose 60 games next year, then you go back next year and you draft Kate Cunningham or Jalen Green or someone, Terrence Clark, in the 21 draft that is more of a playmaker that can help you in that regard, because I think Wiseman is a nice building block for this team if he's available. Now, if Edwards and Wiseman go 1 and 2, which is a very strong possibility given the teams are at 1 and 2, they're screwed. But at that point, then I'm looking at Killian Hayes. But I'm still kind of waving the white flag of, like, man, the 2 guys that I think we really should get are not there. Killian Hayes is, to me, the only other option at that point. But
so that's actually very interesting.
Yeah, nevertheless, I think it's an interesting spot to be in for Charlotte.
No, it's funny. That's an interesting conversation. Before I get to Wiseman and the potential 3 pick, I do want to mention that we didn't talk about the free agents. 2 of them we already mentioned, Biyombo and Hernan Gomez, and then you got Bacon and Kobe Simmons. And I had Nicholas Batum on there, but obviously the chances that Nicholas Batum makes the free agency, I probably have a better chance of signing a 10-day with the Knicks than Nick Batum entering free agency, considering he's a $27 million player option. I know he only averaged 3 points last year, but there's no way.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. I was like, what were the Nick Batum numbers last year?
Yeah, it's 3 points. I think, wow. I don't know how many games he played, 12 or 20 maybe. Anyway, that couldn't go not spoken about, so I did want to at least.
That's the thing. Like, you're saying Batum is coming back next year. That's part of the reason why I didn't say Isaac Okoro. Because, look, they have Nick Batum on the roster next year.
Yeah.
So
Nick Batum.
They need a wing.
Yeah, Nick Batum, he's got that locked down right there. That spot. I'm sorry, Hornet fans. I know that's probably a sore spot for you guys. But anyway, first of all, on Wiseman, I think that Wiseman would be a really great fit. I do agree that the point guard situation kind of makes things a little shaky. He would be my number 1 option. The point guards not being the pass first kind of guys, maybe makes you a little bit alarmed. But, to be honest, Rozier and Graham don't strike me as guys that you're looking at being there 5 years from now. So I can't really worry about the point guard position. I got to worry about the issue I have, which is I don't really have NBA caliber bigs besides Zeller, so I need to figure that situation out. Wiseman, I said in our first video doing the pre-draft lottery, I thought that he was maybe the best player in this draft. So I have no problem taking that slot. But if he's not there, and that gets to number 3, because you said that to me, your only option was Killian Hayes. And I love Killian Hayes. And
I was very, very, very strict about that.
I know. And I love Killian Hayes, and he's my number 1 point guard. However, I think LaMelo Ball makes sense for the Hornets. And here's why I think Melo makes sense, because number one, okay, you have the situation with the guards, Graham and Rozier. Graham is up for a big contract extension. He's up for the 4-year, $51 million extension that goes to the guys that were on minimum contracts. I don't see why Charlotte wouldn't give it to him, but there may be a decision where they decide they don't want to give it to him and they want to try to move on. Trading Rozier is going to be a little harder considering he's got 2 more years left on the deal, and he didn't play terrible, but I don't think people looked at that contract after how he played and thought, oh, that was a great move by Charlotte. I don't think anyone's looking to inherit that contract. So Graham, to me, could be a movable piece considering he's so cheap and they have some cap space maybe to inherit a contract here or there. Maybe you slide in LaMelo Ball next to Rozier, and LaMelo Ball can play some defense. LaMelo Ball can be your pass first guy. Or even if you keep Graham, maybe you move him to the bench and LaMelo Ball becomes your starting point guard. I also think he could be a decent fit there. I don't love Killian Hayes with those guys. I think that they're too similar. So I think he's really good and the best point guard in this draft. I just really don't like the fit, considering I don't think that Rozier and Graham are going to be gone. So knowing that, okay, well, who's a point guard that works better with those guys? I think LaMelo Ball is a great fit because he's got size. There's a potential there to be a decent defender, and he's a great passer. So if you're talking about a team that was so poor offensively, elevating the talent level that you have is going to be also a key and a thing that you have to try to hope you can do. So LaMelo Ball can make a lot of the guys better on his team. So I would give LaMelo a shot there at 3. I don't think that that's a terrible pick.
Look, maybe I may have been a little harsh. I think, Killian Hayes may not be the only guy. I think Denny Avdia would also be another good option there at 3.
I agree with that too.
But LaMelo Ball, to me, I don't know. It just seems like a recipe for disaster. Putting LaMelo Ball with Terry Rozier, like, look, if you in your model where you're talking about maybe blowing it up and just building around LaMelo, like, that's fine, I guess. But with the roster as presently constructed, Ball mixed with Rozier, mixed with Monk, mixed with Graham, I don't know. It seems like a mess.
But we've seen Rozier play with, like, Marcus Smart. Like, you don't see how you don't think he can play, and you're a Celtics fan. You don't think you can play with someone like LaMelo Ball? Because to me, Smart and Ball are not even similar players. But I think the function that they would have in that lineup, I think, would be similar. I think they would be fine.
Yes. Look, I think defensively, I think you've got a mess on your hands. LaMelo, I think, is not ready from day one to be a legit defensive player. Long term, maybe. That's a whole nother conversation. But shooting becomes an issue. I don't know. I don't know what kind of shoe LaMelo Ball is. But what I saw from Australia was not pretty. I think he has to go to a team where you're really going to put the ball in his hands, but are you now taking the ball out of Devontae Graham and Terry Rozier's hands, 2 guys that are better than him right now? And, I don't know if Rozier is necessarily better than him, but 2 guys that are more veteran guys that kind of do need the ball in their hands. So that's the concern, really, with drafting LaMelo Ball. Maybe you do. Like, Killian Hayes is the same way, and for me, I would just say, look, Killian Hayes is a guy. Those other guys just have to fall in line. And maybe you do the same thing with LaMelo Ball, but I think there's going to be a lot more growing pains with LaMelo Ball than there will be with Killian Hayes. That's just me just liking him better as a prospect, but it just seems like a recipe for disaster. And again, it's not that I don't think LaMelo Ball is a better fit for maybe other teams in the lottery, but Charlotte, to me, the Jordan thing is interesting, and I think that could be great from a marketing perspective and a PR perspective. But on the court, look, it's a recipe for ending up with Kate Cunningham next year, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But I don't see how you add LaMelo Ball to the roster we had last year and they win any more than 20 games.
I mean, I don't think anyone who you add to the roster is making this team that much better. Let me be very clear about that.
Yes.
So it's so I don't. That's not going to deter me. I just feel like, again, when I look at the issue, one of the biggest issues of the team being how small they are in the backcourt and how they don't even have guys on, whether it be a point guard or even the guy on the wing, who makes sense as a starter or to get a lot of playing time. LaMelo Ball improves both. So I know his shooting is, again, I agree. I don't know what he is because he had a reputation of being a great shooter. He shot the ball terribly in Australia. He didn't play a lot in Australia in terms of a lot of games. So, like, was he in a slump?
No, I don't know. I can't use the slump.
I don't think. Let me be clear. I don't think that's what happened either.
Now, with shot selection, that's another conversation. If you
his shot selection was also very poor. But
if you improve the shot selection, does the efficiency go up? Probably a little bit. But now, again, we're talking about a guy who's had awful shot selection his whole career. If it moves up, how much does it actually move up? And that's assuming he even does work on his shot selection.
No. So there are a lot of question marks with him. I do understand that, but I don't hate that fit for him at 3 with the Hornets. And if I was just gonna throw quickly a couple of guys at the 32 spot, second round is always kind of a crapshoot. But I think Isaiah Joe could be a good fit with Charlotte. Get you some shooting, get you a true 2-man. He's not the biggest guard, but 6'5" is good size for a shooting guard. And they've had so much problem with that position. Monk hasn't worked out. Dwayne Bacon, hasn't really worked out, and he's a free agent. So, they got hit with one of these guys. So I would look at him. I would also look at, and this is maybe not a guy at 32, but maybe if I traded out of 32 and moved down, I don't hate Elijah Hughes out of Syracuse, because Elijah Hughes, I think when I saw a stat posted, I think he's one of the best passers of all the shooting guards in this draft in terms of how many points they allotted for based on the passes that they made. You're talking about putting Devontae Graham off the ball in some instances. Hughes is proven to be a really good playmaker, along with having some scoring punch at the 2. I think him and Graham, in theory, if Hughes becomes a player, would make a lot of sense. So those are 2 guys I would look at in the second round. Just to throw that out there.
Yeah, a second round guy I would look at if I were Charlotte. I think they need scoring punch, which where they're at in the draft right now, I don't really see it outside of Anthony Edwards, at the top of the draft, and maybe Killian Hayes. But if we're talking the second round, a guy that can give them some scoring punch. I mean, look, Marcus Howard, of course, can get you scoring punch, but you don't need another 5'10", point guard.
Yeah, that's just drafting Devontae Graham.
Yeah, it's just drafting Devontae Graham 2.0. But a guy that could, I think, give you some scoring punch, and a guy that I think you're very familiar with is Killian Tilly. Another Killian, a guy out of Gonzaga who obviously just wrecked with injuries, but when healthy, I think could be a first-round talent, and very, very polished offensive game. The guy that can help you from day one and kind of give you what Nicola Melli kind of gives the New Orleans Pelicans at the 4th spot. It'll be interesting to see how Tilly translates to the NBA game and whether or not he can stay healthy. Honestly, the medical thing is really the most important thing.
The medical thing is the whole thing with Killian. I love Killian Tilly. I'm a Gonzaga fan. Watched dozens of Tilly games. I think that his game absolutely is an NBA player. It's just he cannot stay healthy. And last season they pretty much had a minutes restriction, and they really monitored his time, and he still was out missing games because of injuries.
Yeah.
So the idea that I would be very concerned that he could do the grind of an 82 game season. So second round picks are usually picks you're taking flyers on anyway. So I could see a team being interested considering his skill level. He's an excellent shooter. I mean, he's one of the best shooters in this draft, even though he's 6'11".
Yeah.
So
a little bit of Bertans in him as well.
Yeah, I definitely see Bertans. Davis Bertans is a very good comparison, I think. But and he's also tougher around the paint than you would think in terms of a rim protector and a rebounder. So I like his game. I don't see him being healthy, and that's why I would be wary if I was the Hornets taking him that high in the second round. You know, but it's gonna be with Michael Jordan, man. Anything's possible. With Mitch Kupchak, anything's possible. So I'm curious to see what Charlotte ends up doing. Let us know what you guys think is gonna happen at the number 3 spot with the Charlotte Hornets. Who do you guys take? Do you guys agree that James Wiseman? Both of us seem to think that Wiseman is the guy there. Do you think LaMelo Ball is a better fit than Kendall does? You know, or do you think that Kendall's right that someone like Killian Hayes would make more sense at that spot if you're gonna take a point guard? Leave a comment on this video. Also, make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel, New Generation Media. That's gonna do it for this one. We got plenty of virtual NBA draft war room sessions coming up, so make sure you stay locked in here on the channel. For Kendall, I'm EJ. Take it easy, guys. Peace.